Hi everyone, my name is Nikita. I'll be taking the Fungi honor today. I'm from the Guide class in the Great Pathfinder Club, and this is a very simple honor. It's only about 6 requirements and very easy to do and very simple. And I really like this honor, and I think this honor is based on nature. Of course, it's nature, and it's very informative. And if you learn this honor, I think it's quite useful for us. So let's get into it. The first requirement asks us to give the 5 classes of the fungi and examples of each. I'll be giving pictures and how it affects in the coming slide. So let's get into it. So the 5 classes of fungi. I'll be starting from the right, which is Chithridiomycota, Zygomycota, Glomerulomycota, Ascomiocota, and Basidiomycota. These are the fly type of fungi, and the Animalia is the animal kingdom. Let's move on to our first categorization of fungi, which is the Chytridiomycota. The phylum Chytridiomycota, the chytrids, represent a group of primitive aquatic fungi. They are categorized by having reproductive cells that can move themselves by using a whip-like tails, which are called flagella. These whip-like tails are called flagella, and they help these aquatic fungi move in water. This fungi has a chytrid fungus that causes the potato wart disease or the black scab. So when this fungi causes the potato wart disease or the black scab. The Zymiocota. The zymocytes in the phylum Zymiocota are characterized by the formation of sexual spores called zygospores. The zygospores are not contained within a specialized fruiting body or sac. An example of the zygomite is the common black bread mold, Rhizophorus nigricans. So this Zygomycota is the classification for the bread mold. Glomeromycota. The members of the Glomeromycota are also known as the arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. These species have been observed forming zygospores, and all the other species reproduce asexually. So this species also forms a zygospores. And so the next one is Aciomyocota. The Aciomyocotas are members of the phylum Aciomyocota. They are also called the sac fungi because their sexual spores, Ascosporas, are enclosed in tube-like sacs known as asci. Familiar examples of the sac fungi include morels, truffles, baker's yeast, dead man's fingers, cup fungi, and the majority of lichens, loosely termed as ascules, such as cladonia. So the next one is, and this is the last classification of the fungi, Basidiomycota. Basidiomycetes, also known as the club fungi, are classified into the phylum Basidiomycota. Basidiomycetes include some of the most complex fungi, including mushroom and puffballs. Complex fungi are also the most poisonous fungi. That's something I found in my research. So the second requirement asks us to identify the 15 common fungi of your locality. Draw a photograph for them from live specimens. So I have photographed these and made this into a document. Members of the phylum Aciomyocota have some of the most wide-ranging uses. There are nearly 64,000 different Ascosporas, which are found everywhere from cheese to lichens. Trichophyrin rubrum, the skin fungus that causes the ringworm and athlete's foot. Penicillin, a group of fungi that are used in penicillin and various cheese, including blue cheese, camembert, and brie. Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It is the yeast used in making bread. This is the scientific picture, and this is how bread is made. If you know how to make bread, then if you have the baking order, then you must know about this yeast. When you think of a fungi, you probably think of mushrooms, which belong to the phylum Aciomyocota. Plant disease such as rust and smut and puffballs, which release spore with a puff of air, are also known as basiomyosites. Agaricus bacillus spores. These are common edible mushrooms. There are many types of common edible mushroom, but these are the two types are found in the market. And I used this brown mushroom for making curry. So I think these type of mushrooms, most of us use in our curries. Some might be allergic to it, so they don't use it. Amanita phalloides, poisonous mushrooms, also known as the death cap. So how do you identify this type of mushroom if it's in your field or your yard or your garden? Is by pulling these out and you'll see this large stem. This mushroom almost, I think this is the most poisonous mushroom, and these are known as death caps. And as you can see, their roots, so this is the stem and this is the mushroom. You can see the roots are very thick. They're round in shape, even down. So if you pull this out when it's standing and you see this, just be careful. Just be careful if you see these type of mushrooms. Use gloves also. You might get skin diseases. They call it as a death cap. And be careful not to eat it. So this mushroom is known as the Presauria cubanus. Is a mushroom that causes the hallucination effect. So this is used for two type of things. It is when people tend to hallucinate. It is used in the medical field, and if you by mistakenly eat it in the forest, you might tend to hallucinate. So this one is used for medical purposes, where they use it for different type of mental illnesses. This mushroom is used for the hallucination effect. The Hemidia vascatus, the plant rust, disease that destroys coffee plants. So this fungi is seen in the leaf of a plant, of a coffee leaf, where it destroys the coffee leaf, and the coffee leaf is not edible or to make coffee anymore. I know Adventists, we're not supposed to drink coffee or tea, but still it is something that we should know. The fungi in phylum Chytridiomycota, also known as the chytrids, are the oldest type of fungi. They're the microscopic organisms that are typically found in the fresh waters. Chytrids create asexual motile spores that need water to swim. So Chytridiomycota are fungi that are present in water or aquatic bodies. Bathroscharcothrium dendrobitis. This causes the amphibian disease. This frog over here is dead, and this specific fungi killed this frog. So you can see that all the white scales that are coming from this frog, it's because of this disease, of the fungi that caused this disease. There are different cases where this fungi has wiped out a whole pond of fish, a whole pond of frogs, if this fungi comes in contact with an aquatic body. This causes the Sanchantri and endobioticum, causes the potato wart when it comes in contact with the crops. So this fungi is present in water. So when it comes in contact with the potatoes in the crops, it causes the potatoes to degrade and become something else which is not at all edible to eat. So the Polyphagus eugelenia, the algae parasite. So the algae parasite is of course again found in the water, is found in water or in liquids. This is the algae which is seen in. You need microscope. You need a microscope to see this clearly. This is the picture with the microscope, and this is the picture. This is a picture with a compound microscope. I think it's a more complex microscope is used for this picture, and this picture is taken in a less complex microscope. Okay. Although there aren't as many types of fungi in phylum Glomericota as there are in phylum in fungi kingdom, they still play an important role in the terrestrial and wetland habitats. Glomericota forms symbiotic relations with the plant host, also known as Ascosporas microrhiza. Scientific name again. The fungus provides nutrients to the plants, which provides the fungus energy needed to reproduce. So the Glomericota is very ratifying, but still, let's learn about it. Geospora margita, the fungus that lives on plant roots without destroying the plant. This is the sign. This is the picture taken from the microscope, and this is the picture of the plant. The roots tend to become orange in color, as is seen over here. And these small molecules that stick together on the root of the plant is known as Geospore margita. Let's just call it margita. Okay. The next one, Ascosporas scorbiculata. These are the spores of the specific fungi. These are often found in the roots of soybean plants. So if you have a soybean plant, be careful of this fungi. It destroys the plant. Okay. If you are ever taken out of a loaf of bread and discovered a fuzzy black mold, congratulations! You've seen a zygomycel. There are about 1,000 species of fungi from the phylum Aciomyocota, most of which serve as decomposers in soil. So in grade 7, I think most of us in Indian schools use bread or bread mold to see this specific fungi through the microscope. I have seen it in the CBSE board. So let's see the next picture. The Rhizophorus stolonifer. The black bread mold decomposes fruits and vegetables. Ever had raspberries or strawberries in your home decomposed and become like this? I have. And so I've seen this, especially in Kuwait, when you buy a lot of strawberries and keep them in the fridge thinking that you can eat them later, but it becomes like this. It becomes mushy and soggy, and you just have to take the strawberry and throw it. So this is the hair-like structure, again taken in the microscope. The Rhizooligiferous, the fungus that is used in tenth and tofu. So I think especially the Asian culture uses tofu to make different type of dishes. And again, it's again from a fungus. The mucormycetes. It's a group of molds that can cause serious infection in humans. So if we this is in the air, and I think it should be in the air because it's a respiratory disease, and it's known as a mucormycosis. Mucormycosis. Very difficult names to pronounce. The zooxocytes, the carpus, the mold that grows on the mushrooms, the fungus that feeds on another mushroom. You can see this is the big mushroom, And you can see this white color is again another type of fungi, and this is fungi growing on it. This is the fungi growing on top of another fungi. Another example of the same kind of the same sujoids is that it comes out from the ground, but a small fungi might be down, but this pops out of the ground, and this is white in color and it's very mushy to touch. Okay, so we have come to the third requirement, where I should name 3 types of fungi and tell what their value is in the society or what we use them for. Let's see. So the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, like I said, this fungus is used to make the baker's yeast. Most of the bakers use yeast to bake their bread. Aspergillus niger, this fungus is to make citric acid commercially, and it can also be used to make gluconic acid, and they are both very important food additives. So this specific fungi, which looks like this in large quantity, is used to make citric acid and gluconic acid commercially. The Penicillin Chiropractin, this is the organism that makes penicillin, from which the majority of the large class of beta-lactam antibiotics are derived. Penicillin and its derivatives have saved countless lives since they were discovered and isolated starting the 1940s. So when penicillin was found is in the 1940s, and since then penicillin has been helping humankind. Okay, now I have to tell the life story of the following, which is rust, mold, mushroom, and yeast. Let's get into it. It's going to be a little long, but please bear with me. Rust occurs on many species of plant, but in most cases, any one species of rust can only affect one species of plant. The following describes the infection process of asexual spores. Spore attachment. When a rust spore lands on a plant surface, it needs to attach on to it, or it will simply be washed off. First, the weak hydrophobic interactions are formed between the spore and the plant's cell surface. The unknown signal causes the production of the substance called adhesin. The adhesin, the adhesin then will stick to the pore irreversibly to the plant surface. Once attached, the spore will germinate. The germ tube. The germ tube. The germ tube. Elongation rust fungi penetrate the plant by using the natural spores on the undesirable leaf. But first, the growing germ tube must locate it. The germ tube grows in a random manner until it reaches a ridge. At this point, it will start to grow perpendicular to the ridge, greatly increasing its chances of locating a pore called stomata. So the pore is called stomata. So the Presauria Formation. The stomata is a site of the structure called Presorium that functions to both firmly anchor the fungus and aid in the penetration. Forming the Presorium, an infectious peg grows down to the plant and between the leaf and the cells. So these are the leaf cells, the mesophyll cells. The hausteria. The hausteria, the rust fungus, then gains the nutrients from the living cells. This requires specialized penetration fungi into a living plant cell called the hausteria. This develops into hausteria mother cell. The plant cell membrane surrounds the main hausteria's body, An iron and phosphorus-rich neck bands bridges the plant and the fungal membranes and act as a seal preventing the escape of nutrients into the plant. So this acts as a steel. The rust fungi then will continue to grow and invade the plant until it's ready to make new spores. So that's the story about rust. The Penicillin Chiropractin is a mold that is widely distributed in nature and is often found in living on foods and in indoor environments. It is a source of several B-lactam antibodies, mostly significant to penicillin. Like the many other species of genus, Penicillin P. chiroscim reproduces the forming dry chains of spores or condia from bush-shaped stalks called condyphores. The condia are typically carried by air currents to new colonization sites. In P. chiroscim, the condia are blue to the blue-green, and the mold sometimes excludes yellow pigment. However, P. chiroscanum cannot be identified based on color alone. Observation of morphology and microspecific features are needed to confirm its identity. So this is the story of mold. Mushroom. Bird's nest fungi are fungi with fruiting bodies that look like egg-filled bird's nest and make up the order of Nidoneuralites. They are often seen on decaying wood and in soils enriched with wood chips or bark mulch. The Citrus cetris is probably the most common encountered species in the temperate northern hemisphere. The eggs are spores called periodioles. Periodioles contain a glabell tissue, Basiada microscopes, Basiada, which is a microscopic spore producing structure, and basidiolates are a reproductive spore and are dispersed by rain. So it is dispersed by rain. When water comes, it fills and then flows to the next spot. The nest are splash cups. So you can see these cups are the spores have already left, and these collect raindrops. When a raindrop hits one and the right angle, the walls are shaped such that the eggs are expelled at a good distance from the nest. Each egg has a sticky trailing thread attached to it. If the thread encounters a twig on its flight, the egg will swing around and wrap itself around the twig. The spores can then germinate there and start their life cycle all over again. So this is the story of a mushroom called Nidlorcaceae, bird's nest fungi, easier to name it. Yeast. This is the story of yeast. Yeast have an asexual and sexual reproductive cycles. However, the most common mode of vegetative growth in yeast is asexual reproduction by budding or fission. Here, a small bud or a daughter cell is formed by the parent cell. The nucleus of the parent cell splits into the daughter nucleus and migrates into the daughter cell. The bud continues to grow until it separates from the parent cell, forming a new cell. The bud can develop on different parts of the parent cell depending on the genus of the yeast. Under high stress conditions, haploid cells will generally die. The haploid cells will generally die. However, under the same condition, the diploid cells containing a full set of chromosomes, can undergo sporulation, entering sexual reproduction, meiosis, and are producing a variety of haploid spores, which have only a half set chromosome, which can go on to mate and conjugate, reforming the diploid. So the haploid forms a diploid, then the diploid again forms a haploid, and then this process continues and the cycle keeps moving to form yeast. So requirement number 5 states that we should identify 5 fungal plant disease. Fusarium oxysporum. Fusarium oxysporum, also referred to as Agent Green, is a fungus that causes fusarium wilt disease in more than 100 species of plants. It does so by colonizing the water-conducting vessels, the xylem of the plant. As a result of the blockage and breakdown of the xylem, symptoms appear in plants such as leaf wilting, yellowing, and eventually plant death. Interest in Fusarium oxysporum as a pesticide was first raised after the discovery in the 1960s that it was a causative agent in the destruction of the Hawaiian coca population. The United States government was involved in a controversial program to use Fusarium oxysporum for the eradication of coca in Colombia and other Andean countries. But these plans were cancelled by President Bill Clinton, who was concerned that the unilateral use of the biological agent would be perceived by the rest of the world as a biological warfare. The Andean nations have been since banned its throughout uh, the Andean nations have since banned its use throughout the region. The use of biological agents to kill crops is potentially illegal under the Biological Weapon Convention. So don't ever beget a person who is using this type of fungi. It is illegal, so just say. Okay, the next one, the downy mildew. The downy mildew refers to any several types of omycetate that infect plants. In commercial agriculture, they are a particular problem for growers of crucifers, grapes, and wine types of vegetables. The prime example is Presauria farinosus, featured in the NCBI taxonomy and HYP3. The cubit downy mildew is caused by the Presauria cubensis, which is specific to a cantaloupe, a cucumber, a pumpkin, a squash, a watermelon, and other members of the gourd family. So the cucurbit downy mildew, which is a specific scientific name, affects the cucumber, the pumpkin, squash, watermelon, and other gourd families. Other members of the gourd family. The disease is one of the most important diseases of the cucurbitacea worldwide. So the downy mildew, this is the downy mildew left, and this is the powdery mildew left. You can see this is a little more lighter and a little more powdery, but this is doughy. You can see the yellow color, and this is a little bit powdery. You can see how the leaves differ from each other. So specific plants have specific fungi that kill them. Botrytis, the leaf bite or the neck rot. The Botrytis is a genus of Aciomyocota fungi causing several plant disease. The Anemophorus, asexual reproduction stage of the Botrytis are most included in the imperfect fungi, the genus of Botrytis. This genus contains 22 species and 1 hybrid. Plant disease caused by the Botrytis species appear primarily as blossom blights and fruit rots, but also has leaf spots and bulb rots in fields and in stored products. The fungi induces host cell death, resulting in progressive decay of infected plant tissue, whence they can take nutrients. The next one, Alternaria alternata. Alternea alternata has been recorded infecting over 380 host species. It is an opportunistic pathogen. Opportunistic pathogen. Just imagine if it is opportunistic, that means it is an infectious causing spreading disease to the plants on numerous hosts, causing leaf spots and blights on many plant parts. It also causes upper respiratory tract infection in AIDS patients and asthma in people with sensitivity. So it also is a very, very dangerous fungi for the humankind, because those who have AIDS, they can cause respiratory tract diseases, and people who have asthma will be very sensitive to this fungi. So be careful. The smut. The smuts of fungi, mostly in an Ustiglum, some scientific name, Ustilagenomycetes of the class Telemycetes subphylum Basidiomyocota that causes plant disease. Smuts affect grasses, notably including cereal crops such as maize and corn. They initially attack the plant's reproductive system, forming galls which darken the burst. So you can see it becomes very dark in color with black burst, and releasing a fungus spores which infects the other plants nearby. So one plant get destroyed, almost the whole crop gets destroyed. A smut infestation is controlled by removing and destroying the infected plants. In agriculture, this process is known as the destruction of the initial inoculum. There are several types of smut, including corn smut, sugar cane smut, and loose smut. So there are different kinds of smut, and these affects different kind of crops. The Maginophorate grisae, also known as rice blast fungus, rice rotten neck, rice seedling blight, blast of rice, over leaf spot of gramineae, pitting disease, rice grace blast, and Johnson's spot. Let's call it Johnson's spot because it's an easier name to call. The Johnson's spot is a plant pathogenic fungus that causes an important disease affecting rice. The Johnson spot, it can also infect a number of other agriculture important cereals, including wheat, rye, barley, pearl millet, causing diseases called blast disease or blight disease. The Johnson causes an economically significant crop loss annually. So farmers usually suffer due to this Magnophorogrisae. Each year, it is estimated to destroy enough rice to feed more than 60 million people. The fungus is also known to occur 85 countries worldwide. Such a bad thing. Okay, this is the last requirement for this honor. Know what safety precautions to observe when handling fungi and tips to remember. Flood contributions contribute to the growth and transmission of many kinds of fungi, some of which can cause sickness. Cleanup workers are in increased risk of the exposure to airborne fungi and their spores because they often handle moldy building materials, decaying vegetable matter, rotting waste material, and other fungus contained debris. So who are the most affected? The cleanup workers. The fungal material is carried up into the respiratory tract where airborne particles are inhaled. There are many different kinds of fungi, including mildew, molds, rust, yeast, and many more. Most of these are harmless, but some can cause respiratory and other disorders. When workers inhale or come in contact with the fungi, they cause major problem. Inhalation is the route of exposure of most concern to flood cleanup workers. The recommendations below offer strategies for workers renovating flood buildings, homes, and structures to protect themselves while handling building materials that are visibly contaminated with fungi. For workers cleaning up flooded building, homes, and other structures, excessive moisture or water accumulation indoors will encourage the growth of fungi that are nearby present. Some fungi have the potential to cause adverse health effects such as allergic responses and asthma attacks. Individuals who are sensitive to molds may also have signs and symptoms of allergic reactions such as allergic response and uh, individuals who are sensitive to molds may have signs and symptoms of allergic reactions such as nasal stuffiness, eye irritation, and wheezing. These individuals should minimize fungal exposure by wearing respiratory gloves, eye protection, and they should also seek to eliminate the fungi, as we will describe below. In addition, repeated or prolonged contact of the skin with the flood water and continuous sweating can lead to fungal skin infections. These can be minimized or avoided by washing the skin with warm soapy water and keeping it as dry as possible. If a person experiences severe allergic or skin symptoms or severe flu, now these are the tips to remember whether you are in a flooded environment or in where you are affected by a fungi or a fungal infection. Avoid breathing dust. The fungus spores generated by moldy building materials, crops, and other materials. Consider using a disposable respirator as a minimum when working with moldy or damaged hay, grain, compost, or building materials. Consider discarding all the water damaged materials. Articles that are visibly contaminated with mold should be discarded at all cost. When in doubt, throw them all out. Surfaces that have a light covering of mold should be scrubbed with warm soapy water and rinsed with disinfectant made of 1.5 cups of liquid household bleach mixed into 1 gallon of water. So, what should you use for removing mold off the walls? Use 1.5 cup of liquid household and soapy water rinsed with disinfectant and include bleach and chlorine. So, the next one, caution. Do not mix bleach with other cleaning products that contain ammonia. So, do not mix bleach with ammonia. After working with mold contaminated materials, wash thoroughly, including the hair, the scalp, and the nails, to prevent yourself from falling ill, mainly. Knowing all this, so if you're going through any type of infections or something, please seek medical help also as soon as possible. If if the safety of the food or beverage is questionable, throw it out. Um, So mostly if you're going to eat spoiled food, you're of course going to get sick. So just throw them all out, smell the food, taste it once, and then continue to eat it if it is good. If it is bad, just throw it out. Having an experience of food poisoning is very bad. Only drink safe drinking water that has been bottled, boiled, or treated until there is confirmation that the community water supply is safe for consumption. This point especially goes to the flooded region areas. So, so that is the end of this honor. And let me add one last point. Whether they are mushrooms, yeast, molds, or parasites, and fungi, they all play an important role. Everything in the environment plays an important role. Without fungi, there wouldn't be a natural waste anywhere. Without fungi, you couldn't compose or decompose something that you wanted for your yard, garden, or anything else. Thank you for listening to me. The assignments will be in part 2.